Greetings and welcome to Choose Wisely. I am your host, Armin Gabriele. Today I'm going to talk about parenting. Um, I remember as a kid, young adult, adolescent, maybe even, used to watch shows, or whenever there was a scene of someone going to counseling, they would be lying on the couch and the counselor would start off with this question. This was just about in every scene, and I figured it was a joke, but either way, it was. And the counselor would ask, "So tell me about your childhood." And I figured that was a running joke, that everything was about your childhood. And even as I got a little older and I started getting into learning about people and how we are and why we are the way we are and looking for those answers, still I used to dismiss and dispel the notion that, okay, yeah, everything is from your childhood. No, what's going on? What's going on? And even listening to scenarios of what was happening in the immediate present, I believe that, okay, the answer is in the present. But I've learned that no, most times, the answer is coming from our childhood. The answer is laying in our childhood. And then I started to wonder, why is that such a thing? And in researching and learning and getting to work with people, I learned because that inevitably most of us have suffered some type of trauma in our childhood. Now, when we look at what is that trauma, was it some big main event? Actually, trauma isn't always something major, something acute. Sometimes trauma is just a chronic situation. Sometimes trauma is really simple neglect, a missing of something. And when I look around and the more I work with people, the more research I do, the more I investigate, I realize that so many of us are walking around with significant holes, hurts, where there's a lot of damage, there's some trauma, there's significant fractures, and a lot of it is coming from our childhood. Um, it's it's so elusive sometimes because when we look at some of our experiences growing up, we look at what we were going through as the norm. We didn't see anything, we didn't know anything. And not knowing something, you know that saying, the less you know, the better you're off, or what you don't know don't hurt you. That's so not true. What you don't know a lot of times, most times, will hurt. It's the not knowing how to do something, how to be something, and in many cases, how to be a healthy parent. And when we look around and we look with honest eyes, there's so much unhealthiness going on. And it brings me to two things. Two things. I like this saying, and I used to think it's very powerful, and I think it's very accurate, and I agree with it. The saying is, the best thing a father can do for a child, whether they're with their mother or not, child's mother or not, is to love their mother. It doesn't mean to be with their mother, it means to love their mother. And I think, wow, that's powerful. You're really teaching your child a great, it's powerful in so many ways. And I don't want to focus on that. But my point is that actually I learned that's not the best thing that a father can do. The best thing that a father can do is become healthy, be healthy. When you're healthy, you're going to do a lot of healthy things, but we need to be healthy. I can't be a good partner or a good co-parent or a good parent if I'm not healthy. And many of us are walking around unhealthy. I said in previous podcasts that it is our responsibility to heal and that we need to get to that And what does that look like? And how does that happen? I would say we have to trace our childhood trace. We have to start going back in time, analyzing each moment, uh, each specific or important event or time period as we're dialing back and examine it and see what's going on, see what's happening at the core. And I like the question why, because when we ask why often enough, consistent, then eventually we get to the real root answer of why we are the way we are and how are we. Many of us are not healed. Many of us are operating with fractures that have been unsealed. Many of us are operating from a time period that is much less or much younger than our chronological age. We have to, it's a hard thing to do. It's can even be painful. That can be, it is painful. Um, but we have to look hard and look where we are. I'm going to appeal to my fathers, for my fathers who are active, who are doing good work. Examine, examine yourself, examine how you're doing, and don't be afraid to ask, how can I be better? No matter where you are, no matter how old or young your children are, whether you're a new father, whether you're a father of teenagers, whether you're a father of grown adults, examine and see. There may be a few answers, there may be a few more answers, there may be no answers. Maybe you're doing a great job. Maybe you did the work needing to do to be your best father ever. But ask that question. I always thought I was a good father, and my kids would tell you I always was. The thing I realized is that as much as I did some good, as much as I was involved all the time in just about everything my children did, I still saw so many things that I could have done better. My children, when I learned to leave my ego outside, when I battled I should say, suppressed my arrogance, and I removed myself from being that rigid person stuck in old parenting ways, and I actually listened to my kids. I became better. I learned. In fact, oh my gosh, it's biblical. Um, Yes, adults, we know more. We are wiser. We have experience that children can't have because they just haven't lived long enough. But it doesn't mean that we can't learn from them also. And I'm not saying to relinquish your position and the respect and authority that's supposed to exist between parent and child. What I'm saying is figure out how to improve your position. There's an old saying, it might be American, it might be Caribbean, I'm of Caribbean descent, where it says that children should be seen and not heard. And that is horrible. That is horrible. That's oppressive. That's ridiculous, actually. No, because the Bible said, while the Bible says that when I was a child, I did childish things. When I became an adult, I did away with childish things. The Bible says a couple of times also that we must think of it as a child. We must be like a child. We must see the wisdom of children. In fact, Bible says, and then the children shall lead. So we have it backwards, and that comes from oppression. That comes from a way to keep children silent and to, sorry, we actually keep children silent so that they don't expose our hypocrisy as a parent, our oppression as a parent. Um, we People are walking around hurting. People don't even know it. Whenever we respond to something that we don't like negatively, which is almost always the time, then that means there's something wrong with us. Even if a situation is not a good situation, how we respond is 100% a direct indication as to how we are, how healthy we are. If we cannot engage in disagreement without being negative, if we cannot control and regulate ourselves and our emotions and what we say, if we cannot take a pause and think about the kind of response we want to have, but yet be reactive, then that's a 100% indication of where we are. And it usually indicates that we're not as healthy as we should be. There's this thing about emotional intelligence and achieving emotional intelligence and being able to increase our emotional intelligence. That is great, but we cannot do anything emotionally intelligent without healing. They go hand in hand. In order to become more and more emotionally intelligent, we have to heal. Even being a leader, the best leaders are the healthiest leaders. In order to handle stress, in order to handle adversity, we have to be healthy. The healthier we are, the better we handle everything in life. In fact, the healthier we become, the more our values, our morals, and how we are changes. It's all tied into how healthy we are. What does that look like? I won't answer that just yet because that's has to be another podcast because it's too much to discuss to put in here. I want to get back to parenting, being a healthy parent, and this is going to be one of a couple of podcasts on this topic. Um, I remember watching a short reel by this guy named Gabor Mate. Um, he's a noted psychologist, and I was glad to stumble upon him because some of the things that he said, it really was just so powerful. And I'm going to mention this one short reel, what he discusses, and what that means as a parent. Actually, it's two I'll mention. He says that no children, no siblings have the same parent or live in the same household, even with having the same mother and father present, living together as husband and wife. A husband and wife can have multiple children. The thing is that those children are going to experience different parents. And how does that happen? We are different with each children. Each children are different and have different perceptions. And we are different in our stages of lives as we are having our children. So they experience different parents. And that's important because one thing I had to do and I had to adjust as a parent is I had to come to grips that I can't treat my children the same way. I have 5 children, 4 boys and 1 girl. And I used to spoil my daughter without thought because she was the only girl. But and I accepted that as a reason for treating her differently. But as she became older and older, and she wanted to do things that her brothers wanted to do, I said, absolutely not. And she asked me why. And she asked, is it because they're boys and she's a girl? And I thought about it. And I said, yeah. And she said, well, that's not fair. That's not equitable. And she felt like she's missing out or that she's kind of being punished for being a girl. And I thought about that from her perspective. And then I thought about it from as a parent. And I said, am I being inequitable? And is she being punished for being a girl? And I had to really think. And I even questioned, should I be treating her the same as I treat my sons? And after thinking about it, I said, no, I can't. Because she is different in so many ways. She is different in so many ways, and this world treats everybody differently, treats genders differently. So I had to think about how to respond to that. And I had to get her to understand that, yeah, you're going to be treated differently, and That's necessary because you are different. And then I reminded her how she's different from the boys. I said, the boys walk around in their boxers with their shirt off. I said, do you? Why not? Because you're different. You require different privacy. You require different products to manage yourself. You require a whole lot of differences. So you are different with me than your brothers intentionally, and you want me to be different with you where it works for you, but I have to be different with you, period. But then I started to realize I'm different with my boys too, especially when they start complaining who could do what and what could do who and so forth. And then I realized that, you know what? Yeah, they are different, and I have to be different with them. Even when it came to disciplining, I had to be different because each one of them act differently, think differently. And so what was just typical day by day, almost automated parenting, I started turning it into intentional parenting. And I started treating them differently with a purpose. I started to parent them according to who they are, not just according to how I am, because that's what we do as parents. We treat our children according to who we are, not according to our kids, but it's about our kids. It is our responsibility to mold them. The funny thing is that our children have no obligations to who we are, but we have the obligation. I've had some discussions, tough discussions with some friends. And in looking at things differently, when as a parents, we say, oh, you owe me this, you owe me that, you owe me this, you're supposed to this, and you're supposed to that, you're supposed to this. No. Since when? Who asked for permission? Kids never ask for anything. We're the ones that made the decision to have a child. The child is under our care. We are obligated. It is the biggest responsibility ever. We created a life. And we're the ones that decided to take on that responsibility. Children did not say, you know what, will you please be my parent? If you be my parent, I promise to love you. I promise to respect you. I promise to obey you. If you give birth to me, I promise to do these things. They didn't do that. We did that. We're the ones that said, we're the ones that made the decision to create life. So the only obligations, the only responsibilities, it falls on us. What we're supposed to do as parents is we're supposed to teach our children. We're supposed to mold our children. We're supposed to help our children develop into their best selves. That's our responsibility. And it takes a whole lot. We believe collectively that children owe us. In my opinion, to the day we die, children don't owe us anything. Children who take care of their parents, who love, respect, adore, and all that good stuff, they do it out of a sense of appreciation based on our parenting. What did we instill in our children? We're the ones that's putting into our children. What we put into our children is what we're going to get back. We are the ones that hold a significant level of responsibility to our children up to a certain point. And I say that up to a certain point because at some point our children become adults and they're no longer children. And so our responsibility ends, and it's up to the children who become adults to now start creating the life that they want. Their life becomes their responsibility. Our life, our responsibility is investing in them and molding them. I do not believe that our children have to pay us back. If they pay us back, it's because they want to. It's because of something that we put in. I look at it as going to a bank. You go to a bank, you deposit, you invest. The better you invest, the more you invest, the more you get back. But you can't go to a bank and say, I want some money without making a deposit. You can't go to a bank and say, I want a lot of money without ever investing. If you want something, you got to put in. You're only going to get what you put in. And so I say that because as parents keep looking at their children as a means or looking at their children as obligated to give them, I disagree. Children didn't make the choice. And as children become adults, children have the freedom that you have as an adult, that we always say, I am free to do what I want. So children, if they pay back or reciprocate to their parents, it should be because they want to do it, not because they have to do it. I don't believe that we should be holding children to a level of standards that we didn't live up to. Because when we live up to those standards, we get it back in our kids. When we live up to the standards as a parent that we should be, then we give back to our kids. When we love and nurture our children in a healthy way, we get it back. When we grow our children, pour into them high values and morals, that's how they operate. But we cannot be less than as a parent, whether knowingly or not knowingly, and expect back. You can't walk into a Mercedes-Benz dealership with a handful of money and expect to walk out with a top vehicle. It doesn't work that way. You want something, you want to experience something significant and great from your children, make sure that that's what you put into them. It's tricky. I was going to say there's no handbook. Actually, there is a handbook. It's a religious handbook. For me as a Christian, that handbook is the Bible. But again, that's a topic for another discussion. There is a handbook. I believe, though, that in order to give our children the best, let me rewind. In order to get the best from our children, in order to get unwavering, unconditional love, we got to give it. The funny thing is that when children are children, they give it. They give it. It doesn't matter how the parent is, they give it. They long for their parents' love, so they give love unknowingly because that's what they want, because that's how kids are. They give love. A parent could really be a bad parent, and the kids and children just forgive easily, naturally, while they're young, while they're children. But when a damaged child becomes an adult, all of that trauma, all of that unhealthy parenting, all of the negativity that the child was exposed to, it comes out. It comes out in countless ways. We can't even list, but it comes out. And I say this to you because as a parent, no matter where you are, what it remains our responsibility is to be the example, to heal. Our responsibility is to heal. As a parent, let's say you're a parent who didn't do the best, you can start doing the best. We should not expect anything from our children. We should be giving to our children. But we should be giving smartly. We should be giving wisely. We should know what we should be giving to our children. We should be giving healthily. Not just being health, but we should be giving health. Not health as in medical health, but health as in interactive health, emotional intelligent health, spiritual health. We should be giving to our children. The thing is that when we do, even if we're coming from a position where things aren't the best, they wind up becoming better. The thing about being in the child position to an adult as a grown child in your 30s, 40s, that relationship, there's a dynamic, a wonderful dynamic that exists. And that is, we still want that parenting relationship with our parents as a grown child. So it is still in us, although it may take longer to eventually heal and forgive, because there's this never ending want to have a healthy relationship with our parents. So for you as parents, now I'm talking to you as parents, if you are in that position to where you could have done things better, to where there's some damage, there's some trauma, it's not too late. It's not too late. You can still give, you can still do, you can still create a healthy, loving relationship. Do not expect time to be quantified as to how long that would take. Just start loving and nurturing your child, your grown child or young child, where they are, without any expectations, to just give. The thing about love is that love does not ever require. If your love requires, then it's something to look at. When we love someone, we should love them regardless. And as a parent to a child, um, it's a complex situation, but it's a doable situation. So I won't continue any further. See, it's been a minute. I want to leave you with these thoughts. Think about, excuse me, where you are. Think about how healthy you are or how much healing needs to be done. Think about where it needs to be done. Think about if you can recognize what it is that you could do better, that you should have done better. And that's a caution word, should have. Where you can do better, then start thinking about how you can. Focus on you healing where you need to heal. I promise you, one of the best things you can do if you're not a healed parent is to become a healed parent for your children, no matter what age they're in. They are. Whether they're young, very young, toddlers, adolescents, teenagers, or grown adults. The best thing that parents can do for their kids is to be healthy. And the best things that parents can do who didn't do the best is to become healthy. When you become healthy, the rest will fall in. It will. All righty. This is Gabriel. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope it has helped you. I hope it has enriched your life. And again, choose wisely, choose to heal, and choose to watch my next podcast. Have a great day.